Phil, shut up. And welcome to Team of Four. This is Haloreachforum Europe's attempt at doing a video podcast, like a video blog sort of thing, just hopefully bi-weekly to address everything that's going on in Halo, in European Halo. A lot's been said recently about content and the lack of it, and so one thing that myself and some of the staff members you can see before you have decided to do is to bring this together as like a chat that we'll stream every time, just to bring up any kind of issues that are coming up in competitive Halo, because I think right now it's safe to say that Halo's a bit on the ropes and that there's quite a lot that we need to do to get it back. So try this out. Hopefully you guys will like it. Hopefully this will bring up a lot of interesting debate between who's on the show and whoever's in the chat. So please put any questions you've got for us in the chat whilst we're talking. We'll do our best to address them. But I think the main thing, the first thing we're going to address is the great debate. Now this was something that happened, I think it's 2 weeks ago now. And
Yeah,
it was basically, it was in response to a poll on MLG, on the MLG forums, where it was a poll for people to vote for the titles they would want to see on the circuit in 2012. And Halo got a bit of a pasting, from what I gather. And so what happened was Gandhi, the commentator for MLG, set up this impromptu debate between himself, DMAC, Neighbor, Bestman, I think Bravo and Flamesword got involved. And it brought up a lot of discussion and conversation about what communities, both as MLG and internationally, need to do to kind of raise the bar to get Halo back to where it was. So obviously it kind of makes sense to kick off that as the big topic right now, because it brought up a lot of debate about what the players need to do, what the leagues need to do, what fans need to do to kind of get Halo back, because I don't think anyone's under the impression that we've kind of fallen from grace from being MLG's main title to all of a sudden basically sucking dick when it comes to viewer intake. I don't think it's anything to do with the players necessarily. I think there's just a lot of underlying things with the game, within the community, and with Halo's lifespan that are just leading to a general decline. So, as Smithy or Generic, what's your thoughts first of all on the debate itself?
I mean, it was definitely needed, and it just brings up the question of why we as a community didn't do anything like that before. I'm not sure about, I don't have too much knowledge of the other communities, the StarCraft community, how long, but I'm pretty sure that they've been doing podcasts, shows like this for years and years. And with Halo, we haven't really adopted to that culture yet. There's the thing about streaming, staying in touch with your community as a player, all these little things that, keep people involved and keep people wanting to talk about Halo and, doing stuff to help Halo. We haven't really adopted that yet, and it's come at the right time. Because obviously there was a lot of talk last year from Sundance when he said, Halo, we don't need Halo on the circuit. We don't need Call of Duty on the circuit. He can completely develop MLG and its business model off LoL and SC2 for the next, I think he said, next year or so. So, that was quite a worrying thing. And this debate is sort of like, it's the climax of, I don't know, distress, so to say. It's finally the community's like, right, we've really got to sort ourselves out.
I think that
acting on it.
I know you said distress. I think it comes from a lot of frustration as well, because one of the big arguments that DMAC had was, MLG built itself off of Halo's back, particularly Halo 2 and 3. Like, they were the main titles, and for the league to kind of dismiss Halo as, you've had your chance and whatever, like, I think that brought up a lot of emotions in people that we weren't necessarily going to see. And like you said, I think now that has kind of become a little bit of a call to arms for people. You notice people like Neighbor, who's not necessarily the most outspoken or biggest personalities in the league, has all of a sudden jumped into that debate. And I thought the debate itself was, it was interesting. It brought a lot of different viewpoints. I thought Gandhi in particular, he was really interesting, because you think for the commentator, one of the main commentators now of the game, he'd be more kind of pro-Halo, but he seems to be playing devil's advocate the whole time and just kind of pissing away anything that anyone said as wishful thinking. Phil, did you manage to catch any of it?
I watched a little bit of it, yeah. Gandhi seemed to think that the Halo community was just really, really lazy at the moment, which, to be fair, has a bit of truth in it. But when you look on the other side, compared to like StarCraft and everything, they've been doing this for God knows how long, since the first game. Whereas the Halo community, we've pretty much had everything handed to us in a way.
Yeah.
Like, we've never really had to work
Yeah.
to get our game, like put on these tournaments and everything. It was just kind of there. And now, with like Reach being not as good as everybody hoped it to be competitively, I think we're just starting to realise that it's just like a kick up the arse, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we've never had people like, we've never had a Day 9 kind of character, someone who just lives and breathes the game and just spends his whole time just getting that out there. We've never had people like, Artosis and Tasteless, or the big StarCraft characters, and then you've got people like Fwiz in the COD community who spends his whole time talking about COD in America, and even kind of, I mean, in Europe, you've had a lot of, I wouldn't say personalities, but Deserto's done a lot to kind of bring things together, and obviously we've tried our best with HRF Europe, so I mean, because this brings up one of the big arguments, the problems I had with the debate, kind of just to roll with this. One thing that I noticed Neighbor was saying a lot was that there was problems with the players. Like they didn't get on with the league, they didn't get on with the game. There wasn't enough money in the game, and there wasn't that community cohesion around the players. Neighbor was spending his whole time arguing about money and fan support and people pissing on players and that putting the game down. And I'm kind of thinking, my personal thoughts was that no matter how much Neighbor wanted to argue about it from the player's perspective, I think this whole crash in Halo is systemic. I don't think that there is a I don't think that there's such a problem with communities. I mean, HRF still has the whole of Halo, like European Halo around it. There's French communities, German communities, Swedish communities, Norwegian communities, and obviously the heart of the Halo community is in America. And it's not like the MLG forums have just burnt out and disappeared and no one's around. It's purely, it seems to be like bottom up, not top down. Neighbor seemed to think that it was from the player, but it had to happen at the top players' end, and that it was them who had kind of not had the support. But really, irregardless of whether it's top players, I mean, if anything, the quality of Halo itself has just been getting better and better and better as players have practiced and practiced more and played different titles. Like, there's more of a fundamental understanding of what it means to be a Halo player. Yet, I mean, if anything, I think it's more to do with the community, like the amount of support Halo gets as a casual title, particularly when you look at games like Modern Warfare or Battlefield 3. I just don't think Reach has that appeal.
Well, I agree with you on that because, the players, although they are, you need them in order for the game to exist. But the spectators are the ones with the big numbers. They're the ones that keep watching. They're the ones that keep supporting. Then, of course, you got a small minority of those who actively push forward the community. The players don't really have much to do with that unless they choose to. I mean, everyone keeps on drawing comparisons to the StarCraft community, which, rightly everyone should do because that's the model that has worked the best so far. Out of every competitive game that I've ever seen, the StarCraft 2 community seems to have nailed it. And community interaction between the pro players and, the everyday spectators there doesn't seem to be a lot, but, the players are doing just about enough. They're occasionally playing with their fans, occasionally doing this, that, and the other, occasionally competing and, competing, taking part in debates, but it shouldn't be the pro players doing everything. It has to be from the majority side.
Well, I mean, at the same time, you do have, I mean, I think Trojan in the chat just raised the point that there is kind of infinitely more content available on StarCraft purely because it's a PC title. You can get anyone streaming. And, I mean, all you have to do is look at people like Idra gets 35,000 people watching his casual laddering streams to know that there's, like, obviously the players provide enough for the fans. And you have people like Day9, huge personalities, doing a vlog every day about the game, and you've got inside the game and state of the game, and that's just around StarCraft. And there's obviously communities around other titles producing similar content, but you're kind of right. I mean, there's no point if Day9 did that every day and nobody watched, then we wouldn't be talking about this. But it's the fact that he gets so many viewers to watch it, and the StarCraft community has it has things like Reddit, it has Team Liquid and Complexity and all these kind of big websites to galvanize them. But I just don't see the fact that the players are doing stuff as kind of the reason why StarCraft, why Halo's fallen on its arse. Like, anyone can get into StarCraft, no matter, like, because you also have, I think another thing that Flameswell brought up that I'm a huge kind of, yeah, he's got it right here, is there's no ranking system in Reach. Even in the competitive playlist, it's set out casually. You have no gauge in Reach of whether you are a good player or not. Because,
Well,
or if you're a casual gamer, because you can't match up against other good players. I mean, in StarCraft, you have the league system, you know, the bronze, silver, gold, etc. One, it makes you competitive. You want to get into the new league. The second thing is that you match people of an equal skill to you. And then with Reach, I mean, what, you jump into the playlist, you play Danny9125, he goes 0 and 30, and you're like, oh, brilliant. Like, I really made use of my time there. What a great game.
3 people quit out.
Yeah, see, because
there is a ranking system. There is a ranking system over it. There is a ranking system, except it's not that. I'm pretty sure that, you know, in the MLG playlist there is a ranking system, because obviously we had the recent community initiative led by Flamesword to, you know, email the community manager for 343 and ask for a ranking system, and in response to that they said that the hidden true score ranking system was adequate enough, and they didn't have enough time or the resources to put it into the game. It is absolute bollocks. Like, because every day when I play the playlist, you know, I'm still playing idiots, and I'm an idiot myself, and I'm still beating them. So, yeah, Phil, what are you gonna say?
That's just bollocks. That was my input. You know, like, people want to see a number next to their name. They want to see how good they are compared to other people. Like, you remember when the trailer came out? Well, the multiple trailers that came out for Reach, and had the guys that made it, like, from Bungie, going, "Oh, you got this arena system, right? And you can, like, rank up, and you can be like, yo, I know a guy that was Onyx and all this shit." And, like, it's just like, arena is just not the same as having, like, numbers for every matchmaking playlist. Like, it's just pain in the fucking arse. I'm just thinking about it's getting me mad. Like, they honestly thought that was going to replace the original ranking system they had in 2 and Halo 2 and 3. It just makes me mad.
See, because, again, this is an example of what I mean by it's a bottom-up problem, not a top-down problem that we have in Halo. Like, it's nothing to do with the amount of support Neighbor gets, or the money he gets, or the advertisement that T2 makes, or the money that Walshy makes, or the prize money available. It's nothing to do with that. Like, I'm sorry, but he has to get out of that bubble of prize money. Only top 8 teams, only 32 players at MLG will win prize money. And even, like, the bottom 3 teams, it's piss poor. It barely covers their flights. And yeah, they get stipends, but again, like, who gives a shit? The majority of people playing Halo will not be in that top 32 of players. So why does I don't get why Neighbor was talking about, like people. I mean, people attended Halo 2 and Halo 3 events with over 200 teams, knowing that only 32 players, 8 teams, were going to get money. And yet they still went. And you kind of think, well, the reason they went is, 1, they loved the game. 2, the game lent itself to competition. And 3, I mean, we haven't even touched this yet, but we will do eventually. The settings kind of were good enough at any tournament. I mean, obviously Halo 2, the settings were kind of decent from the outset, and 3 took adjustment, but they were still competitive at all the stages, whereas people have looked on Reach and they have no idea about what kind of stage they're at, so they're put off from attending tournaments. But I mean, they're still not going to win those prize money. These players, I mean, we had it in Europe. We had people who would, you know, the heroes of the community would get top 16 or top 24 time and time again and still come up to these events. I mean, I'm thinking of people, I don't know if you remember, Phil, people like Demands and Tibbles and people like that, and they see they're the real heroes of communities, because they're the ones that no matter where they place, they still come back because they love the game and they love competing and they love everyone involved in the communities. So to talk about, oh, there's no money for them, like, I'm sorry, but they were never going to place first. So, well, I don't think they cared about money. I mean, when I played, I didn't care about the money. I did it because I loved it.
It's never been about the money. It was always about the game. That's what people are missing. Like, saying, like, oh, the prize money's been reduced, oh, we're not going to go because we're not going to win anything. It's because the game isn't as good as previous games. Like, it's not as good as other games on, like, in competitive leagues. The game has to be enjoyable. It has to be something that you want to go back to, you want to play, regardless of prize money. Like, that's the kicker.
Like, it's a bit of a drip down effect, because I remember Neighbour saying, or Best Man, or someone was talking to them on that Great Debate stream, and they were saying that Triggers Down, when they placed, I think it was 6th at Orlando, their highest placement for a while, they didn't even practice. And for you to hear something like that, and as a normal player, playing at MLG, not really much chance of getting within that top 16, for you to hear that they're not practicing, to get this money, and maybe even not practicing for Providence, you heard there were players dedicating more time to Skyrim and Battlefield 3 before the tournament, when there's a lot of big money on the line, and obviously your reputation's on the line. And when you see these pro players who don't really care about where they place anymore, as a normal player, you're just thinking, well, what's the point? Because they're not caring, and they're still better than me. So why should I practice?
Yeah, see, I mean, that's where the players might be involved. But I kind of see amateur players, like, even in Europe, say, outside the top 6, or maybe in the ACL outside the top 3, and in MLG outside the top 8. There's 2 types of amateur players. There's one, like, kids like the Sudoths. They're the typical example. They desperately want to break in that gap, and they wear their own they buy their own jerseys and they wear them. They buy their little Astro things in their ears with their logo on it and they wear them, and they strive to be those kinds of players. And I think the knock-on effect is that for them, they think like, oh shit. I mean, if Triggers Down don't even have to practice and they get 6th, and we've sweated our bollocks off to get top 24, what's the point? The other effect is that you've got the other type of the AM kids who know they're never going to make anywhere near even top 24, and they go just because they love MLG, they love everything that's on offer, and they love competing. And then people in Europe love being at EGL events and seeing everyone in the community and competing. And for them to see a team like Triggers Down not practice and reach the top end, it's a big basic fuck you to anything you've been trying, and a big fuck you to the game. Because people will go, look, I mean, if Neighbour doesn't enjoy Reach, then why the hell would I? And it does have that knock-on effect. But talking about the money involved doesn't mean any difference. It's more the ethos behind the game. And this is the game's fault. I believe it's the game. I don't think it's the players or the communities or the leagues, because like I said, over time, all they've done is just get better. Every league's improved. I mean, ACL has a circuit all around Australia. EGL has now got huge events across the UK, and MLG is still MLG, and just got bigger and better. And I don't think the quality of players has dumbed down, because if anything, you see it in Europe and America particularly, the quality of the players has increased so much that new players are constantly breaking through. I mean, you've got people like Ramirez over here who's never placed anywhere and is now one of the best players in Europe, and people like, Blaze and Lethal in America are smashing it over there. And then the old players are still the old players, still good enough. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with the fact that Reach itself doesn't lend itself to competitive play. And this kind of brings me on to the next step that the great debate kind of brought up, was settings. People talked about the fact that, I mean, there was the title update. When the title update was announced, there was a lot of interest in what Reach could become. And there's definitely a lot more interest now in what Reach could become with no Bloom, no Sprint, etc., etc., etc. But I still don't think that's enough. For some reason, I just think without a ranking system, that's still not enough.
There's not much we can do at this stage. I mean, for now, the aim for Reach for 2012, until Halo 4's release next Christmas, it's just going to have to be cope with what we've got and just keep pushing through. Obviously, with the recent attitude that MLG's adopted with the no Bloom, no Sprint in the playlist, I think that is a very big step forward in terms of just keeping that competitive base for Halo going on. I think they kept a similar line of sight when they released V1, when it was no Sprint but with Bloom. And everyone at first was loving it, but myself, I was just thinking, am I liking this because of the nostalgia effect? I'm not really allowing Reach to become what it could be by allowing all these new AAs to come in. And after a year of competitive play now with Reach, everyone's now realizing actually keeping Halo as it is without many AA influences or anything like that, it is the way to go. And, proves this time that nostalgia wins.
I mean, Phil, because I want to know what your take on this is, Phil. Because like both me and you, we've been around long enough to play multiple titles without vulnerabilities, and without Bloom, you've had different things like leading shots on Halo 3 and auto aim on Halo 2, etc., etc., etc. But this still doesn't feel good to me.
What, the new settings?
Yeah.
Yeah. It still feels like it still feels like I'm ice skating everywhere, to be honest. Like the
Yeah.
game doesn't feel solid. It just does not feel solid. It feels like it's something that's not meant to be, and that's why it's so like. I still don't think it's going to be enough. Like in my opinion, I think Reach is dead. Like it's barely surviving at the minute. 2012 is going to be the game changer, really. I wouldn't be surprised if Reach got took off the circuit altogether. But to be honest, I've got a lot of hope for Halo 4. I think that's the best way of putting it.
See, because this brings up the point that you made, Andrew, about 343 kind of dismissed putting a ranking system in Reach because they're working on Halo 4. That, to me, kind of sums up where we're at in Reach. It seems to me like we're simply waiting for Halo 4 to come out because, for whatever reason, Reach has just been a disaster, even with these new settings.
It makes perfect sense though for 343 because Reach is a game where, they may have got, in terms of a business, they're not going to get much money from it now. They're not going to create a new game that suddenly hundreds of thousands of people are going to want to buy Reach again or, buy it for the first time. They are going to put more money into Halo 4, and I just hope that this recent community initiative, it shows them that, they should be spending a lot more time putting in money into the competitive element of Halo 4.
I mean, because like you just said, community initiative, there's one last thing that the Great Debate did pick up on. Particularly DMAC was really vocal, and I think Nexi's been very, very vocal about this since, is the lack of content from players and communities alike. Now, I had a big think about this and about whether that means something, and I did come to the conclusion that actually that's maybe the one thing they could do. I mean, I don't know. See, this is where it's interesting for our point of view as Europeans, because obviously we don't have kind of a big enough community where, say, the Bucks stream, and all of a sudden we think, oh Jesus Christ, it's the Bucks, I have to go and watch. Whereas a lot of players see people like Ninja streaming in LG, and a lot of Americans go, oh God, it's Ninja, I have to go and watch. So it's different from a European point of view, but I do think it's important, particularly in America, that the American pro players in particularly do stream as much as possible, do make as much content available to kind of all your casual players and your casual audience. But once again, I have to bring up the point. What's the point in streaming a subpar game?
It just has to be done. It just has to be done whilst it's there. I mean, your only other option if you're not going to stream and you're not going to compete is move on to another game or just wait until the next Halo comes out. And I think many people, or some people, will just be thinking, I'll deal with this game for the next 12 months, and then hopefully in 12 months' time, we'll have a better game to play.
All right. Well,
but
we're joined
there's no
by...
guarantee that...
go on, finish sentence.
There's no real guarantee that, Halo 4 will be so much better or whatever, but there is that hope. And I know a lot of people have said in the past, they're giving up hope with Bungie on certain Halo games from H2 to Halo 2 from CE, and Halo 3 was a step down from Halo 2, Reach was a step down from Halo 3, but you got to keep up that hope because that's all you've got.
Well, we're joined by Adamski, a European player now on SK Gaming. Adam, have you been kind of listening in at all?
For a few minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
About the content stuff and the Americans and all that.
Yeah, just about the Great Debate and kind of the situation that Reach is now, and kind of, I don't know, did you watch the debate?
I watched some of it, and then I got sidetracked and didn't see the whole thing. 'Cause it's about an hour long, isn't it? So,
yeah, it's a fairly kind of lengthy piece. I mean, what are your opinions on kind of the situation in general, aside from the debate?
Halo's been dying a painful death for a while. I think we all know that, but there's still a lot of life in it, and if the community can get behind it with little tournaments and streams, like you said, the books are doing, I mean, it's little bits here and there that will bring it back. It's not one big tournament like EGL can do, or like MLG coming over. I mean, MLG coming over will be huge for everyone, but we need to prove that we deserve that first.
Well, just just to raise a point, EGS a while ago, just before Loughborough, I think it was, they did announce, a free-to-enter €250 prize money tournament. I think we got 13 teams for it, and then we had a few more drop out in the middle of it. So, in the end, there was only 5 teams competing in it. And considering that there were 21 teams at Blackpool, which was, a couple months before it, we're seeing that online tournaments, as they traditionally have been in the European Halo community, they're not really that supported. So
Well, this
does that require a complete attitude change by the community, or is it the tournament organisers?
I think, to be honest, that's more to do with the tournament organisers. I don't think anyone's going to jump behind a tournament that they've never heard before, that no one knows the organisers apart from Sammy K, who hasn't got the best reputation around any communities. So, no offence, I know you work with them, Andy, and that was a fantastic plug. But I think kind of people saw, €200 for that effort of joining up and signing up, etc., to guys who you didn't even know would pay out, which is another kind of situation with VGL, but at least they host the live events, which you get the atmosphere. But for an online tournament with kind of guys we've never heard of, I think people were just a little bit I'll give it a go, but I'm not going to sweat my bollocks off for it, which is why you had, out of the 13 that signed up, 5 teams actually bothered to do it. So I don't think you can kind of compare I'll say it, piss poor kind of amateur league coming in with a piss poor online system, turning up and asking for the community to rally behind it out of nowhere. But I don't think you can compare that to the decline of Reach in MLG or EGL or AECL, etc. Compare those big international leagues. But well done, good plug. So. I think
just gonna leave in shame now. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, you just hang your head in shame. I've pissed all over that idea.
We should move back onto the settings now.
Yeah.
After that amazing detour. So yeah, the settings. Now that we've seen, obviously the playlist has got 0 bloom, 0 sprint, and a lot of people have, asked the idea of what about putting in some of the game types that Bungie initially put in, such as stockpile. And I think there was a community game,
really,
or community version of Search and Destroy on Call of Duty. Is experiment with these game types that traditionally haven't been in Halo. Is it worthwhile? Or is it just going to be, another 2 months of testing and then actually you're going to realise, oh wait, that was a terrible, terrible idea?
Well, the trouble that Reach has had since inception is that, because it was obviously Bungie brought it out, they wanted to hit the casual audience. They knew that particularly on console, the Modern Warfare and the Black Ops series, or Call of Duty series, sorry, there's just been shitting all over casual Halo. You look at Halo 3's casual numbers compared to what happened when Gears of War 2 and Black Ops came out, it just... so what Bungie did is they introduced a lot of shit like armor abilities, a lot of shit like extra guns that go pew 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 but do fuck all. Introduced a lot of shitty maps that come straight out of the campaign because it makes casual gamers easier to recognize, even though the maps were shit to begin with. And then they throw all this sandbox shit into the game thinking that's what the casual gamer wants. And then they put so many playlists. There's 30 playlists now. It's fucking ridiculous. How's a casual gamer ever supposed to get to grips with the essentials of Halo when every single different game type and every single different weapon, etc., 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 is so fucking different and there's no continuity? On something like COD, where you've got all the guys you can make your own classes, you get continuity. It's just the maps that slightly change. And things like Search and Destroy have been around in all of them, and Team Deathmatch have been around in all of them, so it's easy to comprehend. They only have kind of a few that they've never tried before, whereas Reach decided, no, fuck it, we're going to make people's heads explode and you can pick up their skulls. Oh wait, we're going to have a 28 hills and a King of the Hill game, or territories over there and here and there, and all these stupid fucking game types. The point is they're trying to attract the casual audience, and if anything, I think they're actually alienating them because they're not giving the casual audience kind of the idea of Halo. I think casual audience just go, well, this is just a clusterfuck of shit. I'm not going to get involved with that.
The first thing people do when they play Reach, think of it as just you've just picked the game up, you've never played a Halo game before, or you've briefly delved into either Halo 2, Halo 3, or anything like that. If you pick up Reach, out of the box, that game is shit. The online kind of works, but You go into a game, you start shooting, you think, what the fuck is this bloom thing? Why are my bullets not killing this guy? I'm spamming the trigger. Like this is just like people who are just picking up. I'm spamming the trigger, nothing's fucking happening. I'm punching him, he's not dying. And eventually people just get sick. They're just like, well, I can't learn this game. It's one of those games that
Yeah.
isn't fun to pick up and play. Whereas
Yeah,
Halo
yeah.
2, Halo 1, they nailed that pretty much on the dot.
And at the same
Right out
time,
of
the
the
other
box, you
genius
played
thing
it.
about the other thing about Halo 2 and 1 and 3 is that there wasn't so much of a clusterfuck of sandbox weapons and vehicles, etc.,
Yeah.
in the casual playlist. That if you say we're playing Halo 3 Team Slayer and you jumped into Halo 3 MLG playlist, you wouldn't shit your pants that everything was so different. They were actually quite similar, like the movement speed. You just started with a different weapon, which you started off a lot with in Team Slayer. Whereas you get to like the jump in the MLG playlist right now, half the maps are Forge World, so you don't even know if you're not like used to MLG or anything. You have no idea what you're doing. So Reach, when you first play it, is shit, and then you try it and go to competitive settings. You're like, hold on, I've just got my head around this casual jetpack and shit, and now it's fucking barely in here, or I can't fucking. Where's my hologram at? Like, I think people just get so confused with what Reach is now compared to the simplicity of 2s and 3 settings.
I think it started with Halo 3 when they introduced equipment. That was like the downfall. That was the start. It's
Yeah.
like,
But at least
fuck this
MLG
power
were
grid and
clever
shit.
enough to get rid of that as soon as they could.
It wasn't a
Yeah,
hard decision
but,
though, was it? It wasn't a hard
but
decision to
still-
say, have a big ball that lets out lightning that takes everyone's shield off. It's not hard to take that out. And a flare that blinds everyone. I
And that
mean,
was
what was that?
in the jammer. Oh yeah, now I can't see fuck all on my radar. That was a brilliant.
Was there any
Brilliant
others?
piece of-
There was... I can't
There
even
was
think
bubble
of
just a
shield.
ton.
I
There
can't
was
forget
just a
the
ton
bubble
of
shield.
bollocks like there is in Reach now. And
Oh, no, there was Bubble Shield. There was... you could throw down a lift. You could create your own lift. That's pretty cool.
yeah, but I mean, but MLG were very quick to take that out, and it kind of got it's not hard to jump from casual settings in 2 to competitive settings in Halo 2, and the same with Halo 3. You jump from casual settings, like you play fucking Invasion in Reach, and then you go and play CTF Sanctuary in MLG settings, you will shit your pants because you won't have a fucking clue what you're doing. And of course, because the playlist isn't ranked, you'll find Danny Boy 1227 sitting there thinking, "Whoa, where the fuck's my hologram?" is playing against fucking Ninja or Neighbor because that's the way the playlist works. It's stupid. At least when you wanted to jump from 3 into competitive settings, you kind of started at level 1 and you played people at level 1. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think the thing that's like annoys me the most and has kind of hindered the growth of Reach in matchmaking, like because that's where it all starts, is the fact that you can search for a game like 4v4, and you will match up against like a full team. If you're just by yourself, you will match up against a full team. That's possible in Reach. How retarded
Yeah.
is that? Like, there's just no reason for that to happen.
It's like this... I think it's on their...
Regardless if it's a good team or not, like that's a group of 4 people together who have purposely went into that playlist to play with each other and talk, but you're like thrown with like random kids who either quit out or don't talk at all.
Isn't Bungie's
yeah.
point that they wanted to have a balance of having the right players and then time, because they don't want people having the Halo 2 problem where you get to a certain level, like 30 or above in Team Hardcore, where it took about 6 hours to get a game, and when you did get a game, you got cheated anyway, so...
Yeah, so
But
that was the
it.
cheating though, wasn't it? Like, you took the cheating out of 2, and I think that the leveling system worked kind of a lot better than it would have done. But I mean, I don't
If
know.
that was
I mean,
what they were
'cause-
trying to achieve, sorry, Joseph, 2 seconds. If that's what they were trying to achieve, though, Adam, like surely they should have added an option for it,
what do you mean?
like,
yeah,
like an option to turn it off, to say, no, I don't want to
Oh,
find
right.
Yeah.
I'm
There
going to
is-
turn off cheating so you can search for, I don't want any cheaters. I'll turn off
No
cheaters.
hackers, players,
Yeah.
click.
oh shit, I didn't think of that.
Uh, no, I mean like, I mean there are options in there that say so I want to be matched with so and so, I want to be matched with these type of people, but there's no option that says I don't want to go up against a full team, like by yourself searching. Like even if you search in 2s, it should automatically just find other pairs of 2s, or just like people searching random. Like you have Call of Duty, they've got like mercenary playlists where you can't match up against teams. That's all Halo needed in Reach. That's
Yeah.
all it. Just a mercenary player.
I mean, to go back to kind of the way it is now, we've now got, I mean, what MLG seems to have termed the gold settings. I don't know why that's cropped up. Flames was trying to explain it to me, and I just kind of like, yeah, sure. But it's basically no bloom and no sprint, which, you know, I think it works quite well.
It's better
because I mean, in the very basic, like, I'm shooting this guy, in theory he should die. That's one of the positives that have come out of this, because that hasn't happened in Reach, which sounds fucking absurd. That I'm talking about a Halo game where I'm not sure if I'm going to shoot someone they will die, but that's the way it was. But now we've got that. I just still have such an issue with taking those settings and putting them on maps that were designed for Bloom and Sprint. Like, MLG really need to go back and rethink these maps now, because playing like maps like fucking Oasis, where there is soddle cover, and given that the DMR, Reach has got such a positive that the DMR actually works cross map, and you remember trying to play Halo 2 and trying to shoot someone from midship to midship window, like, you would slit your wrist before you'd hit anyone.
Maybe you.
Whereas like
It was it was like but no.
I wouldn't say I was P3, I'm sorry. I wasn't that guy.
You say it's
It was
like,
okay,
you know, it's...
good. Like, it was fine.
I think the biggest problem with the new settings is bleed through, I think. Because you never know how many bullets someone is down. If someone's just come out of a fight, then they're going to take a hell of a lot less to die again. And it sort of takes a huge amount of awareness to know when someone is just going to take one bullet to die and when you're going to die, because you can be full shield and still have your health that you can't see depleted, and you'll just fall dead all of a sudden from one bullet or one nade. It's like, oh, that's shit. I don't understand why the bleed. I mean, can we even change the settings of the bloom yet? Can we alter them?
They've only released like
we can
three
now.
different game types, like 3 different styles or something.
Right.
But we can't physically change it. Like, they said themselves, they're not going to bother putting in a user interface to change it. Like, that's too much effort for them. So it's like, they're kind of just like throwing us a bone basically to see what we do with it, because they are
I
way
think
too
we've
busy
only
with
got-
a new game.
We've only got 0%, 85, and 100, haven't we? I think that's the only 3 we've got. But I think we can turn, obviously, sprint and off and on, and armor abilities off and on. But I think in terms of the speed settings, or the bloom settings, sorry, I think we've only got 0, 85, and 100 to play with. But I think it's kind of general kind of community opinion that, yeah, okay, 0 is the way we need to go, because that kind of brings us back to the usual Halo mechanics, which is fine. But I still think that I've been playing 0 bloom, 0 sprint enough to know that it doesn't work on the maps we've got, because I've already had things like you know, you spawn, and the first thing, I mean, by the way, the spawns are shite on some of these new maps. But the other thing is the amount of times that you spawn, and if someone's looking at you and they hit you twice, you have to back down. Like, there's no getting away from it, because the maps were designed for sprint and bloom that you could get out of difficult situations, which is fine. But when people can hit you across the map as soon as you spawn and you can't get away from it, the maps just seem like they need more cover.
I think some of them work pretty well. Like, Sanctuary works pretty well, and Zealot does, because they're quite relatively small. But, I don't know, I think maybe just tweak them a bit more cover here and there, or... The spawns are bad. Like, played Pit just earlier when I was scrimming, and it was just spawning where we were, and it was like, we've just killed you here, and you spawned here again. Nice.
Interesting.
Well, it's just MLG have a limited control over certain maps, you know, the ones that Bungie made. And if they really want to, you know, make every map fully adapted to Reach, they're just literally going to go into Forge World, where you're just literally given a grey slab of everything. And you just have to make it, you know, do what you can do with it. But, you know, that's the only way I can see pure maps that, you know, are perfectly suited for Reach. That's the only way where that can truly be achieved.
Because, I mean, like, because Frosty just got hold of me in Skype, and he just wrote to me saying, like, it seems, you know, Phil was saying with Bloom, they kind of just threw a dog a bone and said, like, do what you want with it, do what you can with it. He sort of said that he thinks Forge World is kind of the same thing. The Bungie threw us Forge World and said, look, go play with that, keep yourselves happy. And you actually look.
You do the hard work. Yeah, you do the hard work.
Yeah, you do it, because we can't be bothered. Because you look at
some
maps
great
like
pieces
Zealot,
of metal. Make some shit.
but look
And
at
then you put it
Zealot.
into the playlist.
Zealot is a poor map. Like, I'm not convinced by Countdown either. And then, are there any other kind of standard maps we use now?
No.
I mean, I kind of have to hope that Beaver Creek might be playable, or whatever
I
it's
need to,
called
I need to
now.
get.
Like,
I haven't even tried it yet.
I don't think it will be. I've had a few
I mean,
games on it, and I think it's just not right. It doesn't suit Reach at all, which is pretty sad because it's a good map, but it doesn't play like it should.
yeah, because I mean, even in Halo 3, where we did have, what was it called? It wasn't Forge, was it? It was Was it Foundry? Yeah, Foundry.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Foundry maps, but we still had a core of Heretic, the Pit, Construct, and Narrows, which provided like 8 out of the 11 game types, and
Would you
amplified.
say
And
they
on,
were good maps though? Would you say those were good maps?
I think they were I mean, I thought Heretic was purely because that was a remake. Um,
And they
and
kept it faithful. Remember, they kept it faithful. Not unlike the fucking Lockout remake, they just trolled the community with.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, in
That's
terms of
terrible.
constructs, narrows, I mean, those two are questionable in my eyes as to whether they were good maps. But the fact that they're not just us having to sling objects together that are all grey, and that therefore you're going to have frame rate settings, etc. I think that was a bonus, like to have a map that actually runs smoothly. And at the same time, this really does come back to my point of the lack of cohesion between casual and competitive in Reach. You could play Construct in Team Slayer and play Construct in the MLG playlist, and that's a big thing for casual gamers who want to know all about competitive Halo. Now, who the fuck is going to play a map? Like, I can't even think of the casual maps in Reach, to be honest. But they go from the shitty casual maps in Reach, like Powerhouse. You're just going to go from playing Powerhouse and jump into Oasis and know what the hell they are looking at.
Well, there's talk of Powerhouse actually being used as an MLG map for
Oh no.
search and destroy setting. You know, just something like that. I'm not
So
entirely sure, but I've just read about an MLG variant of Powerhouse being released by one of the American community members.
I'll tell you what, those maps, some of those maps, like Powerhouse, are actually incredible Call of Duty maps. They are really good Call of Duty maps. And I don't know, I like the idea of trying out these settings for search and destroy. I actually really like territories back in V2 or 3 or whatever. We land on territories, and I thought it was a really good game type, sort of like domination in Call of Duty. But I think we need to just try them out. I mean, there's a lot of snobbery about, oh, we're Halo players, we don't try out the Call of Duty stuff. No, I think we just need to give it a try.
Well, the trouble is that we can't, because all we get is Forge World, and we're stuck with the parameters of that. And I know they tried to improve it from Foundry, but I still think, as Frosty said, handing us Forge World and just saying, look, go play along, is just a big kind of fuck you to any competitive communities. Not that competitive communities necessarily matter to Bungie, because we're actually marginal compared to the casual gamers, but they've not done us any favours, because the casual gamers just cannot jump into any kind of competitive settings anymore. They're so different. They are so different. Anyway, so that's kind of... There's a lot... I don't know, I mean, just my own thoughts are that there's just to go back to the beginning of the talk about the Great Debate, is that there are just so many systemic problems and flaws within Reach itself. And yes, stuff is happening like settings to adjust that, and content is coming out more and more, which is great. But I don't think it's anything to do with top players and the leagues and the communities, because we're still here. It's not like, all of a sudden I come on to Haloreachforum and there's no users, or the MLG forums just disappeared, etc. Or the ACLs stopped doing events. It's nothing to do with that. It's the fact that the game itself just doesn't lend itself to competitive Halo anymore. And I think, like Phil said, the only answer is to wait and see what happens with Halo 4, which is a shame. It's a real shame.
I think the best thing we can do is just put forward ideas for 343 to take on, because they have said they are listening. I mean, bear in mind this is part of what Bungie was, but this is apparently the people that left right after Halo 2. And you can imagine a lot of people's kind of hope being brought back after playing Halo 3 and Halo Reach, thinking, well, maybe they might go back to the original style, like keeping it simple, not adding all this extra shit that we don't need. Like, there's just when it comes to FPS games, there's no need to add that much crap. There's no need for equipment. Like, I mean,
well, look at Counter-Strike, for example. It's just there's no nonsense. You don't have like jetpacks. Imagine that, a jetpack in Counter-Strike. some crazy
no clipping around the whole map.
Yeah,
like,
the richest terrorist you've ever seen just flying around. And, yeah.
I mean,
when
I
it comes to,
know we
to
keep
console FPSs, stuff needs to be simple. You can't overcomplicate things, and reaching Halo 3 just complicated it too much. It was just
yeah.
beyond.
And I know we keep comparing Reach with these big PC titles because they've got such big communities, you know, things like StarCraft and League of Legends and HON, etc. The reason they're doing so well is, like, once again, a bronze player is playing the exact same game as Idra on the main stage at MLG. Like, someone who's just picked up the League of Legends is playing the exact same as Team Dignitas at MLG. Like, anyone can pick up those games and be playing the exact same game, and therefore they can understand what they're seeing more, and they can tap into those competitive communities a lot easier. Reach, it ain't happening. There's just too much going. Like, the original game was so fucked from our point of view that, and I don't kind of blame MLG here. They had to do what they could with it, but it's just so different from what the casual experience is. Is that we can't get casual gamers to access it anymore, and I think that's the fallout. Neighbor was saying that it's to do with all the pro players. It's not. The fallout has come from casual gamers not accessing Reach anymore accessing competitive Reach anymore because it's just the jump is just too much. Like Phil said, there's too much into it now. So I mean that kind of sums up my thoughts. Anyone else want to give any last thoughts on where we are with Reach?
Well, I think the game sets the limit for how far you can go with it, and 343, you know, although they are doing the minor things now, and you know they are working close with MG, it's all about just looking forward to the future now, doing the best with what we got, and then for Halo 4, if everyone, you know, suggests the best ideas we can come up with for competitive Halo and Halo in general to 343, and they take them on board, then we'll be plain sailing in 2013, but it's a long time to go. Just got to hang in there.
I still think it's just been recently a lot of moaning. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. We've still got a community. We've still got people who care about it. There's still tournaments going on. There's still big organisations putting money into different teams. Let's just enjoy it for what it is, even if the game isn't as good as Halo 2, Halo 3, or Halo 92, which isn't out for a long time. But I think we just need to maybe, try a few new settings and just make the most of what we have, because what else are we going to do? We're going to switch to COD. Well, none of us are good enough to switch to StarCraft, so we might as well keep playing Halo Reach.
Phil, any last thoughts?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, because we've obviously touched a lot on MLG because this is where the great debates come from. And obviously, we are Haloreachforum Europe, so we've got to give more of a European point of view to things. So one thing I really want to talk about is the impact that Europe has had on MLG this year, what we've done in the past, where we are now, and where you think we're going to go, particularly in 2012. And this kind of brings up two key points. The first one is European teams in America. So mainly what we did throughout this year, from Power epically failing in Dallas to Apex doing quite well in Providence. The second point is this tweet from Sundance to indicate that he might be spreading MLG internationally next year. So if we kind of discuss the first one with regards to the teams, like how do we thought European teams did this year?
MLG.
Yeah, at MLG.
Yeah. Well, I just want to bring up kind of like a side point about the community as well. Like it's beneficial for both the teams attending and the community, you know, that are supporting them, because, you know, it just gets everyone more interested. For the first few MLG events where we didn't have any European teams attending, you know, interest in MLG dwindled. You know, we didn't see much discussion in the news threads or anything like that. But as soon as we saw European teams at MLG, we saw everyone, a lot of people in Europe, you know, step up and show their support. And that's obviously, you know, we've seen Buck57 come back now to the forums because of the support he's received, and it's just generally a good thing.
I mean, what do we think about? I mean, obviously, I was part of that Power team that failed epically in Dallas, and it wasn't looking rosy then. But I can honestly say there are reasons for that team failing that has nothing to do with kind of practice or the difference between American and European, etc., etc., etc. It's just there were problems within that team. So if we kind of focus specifically on Providence, because we had LLL there who placed 17th, am I right?
Yes, yes.
And Apex.Link who placed 13th. So kind of what Adam, like you're the kind of the player out of all of us here. Halo player. What do you think about those two teams and the impact that they had both in the States and over here?
Over here, it was huge. Like, everyone was tweeting, everyone was giving support on the forums, the thread was going mental. Even the MLG forums was talking a lot about it, and there's a big discussion about these European teams, and you always heard Gandhi and Shockwave talking about, oh, Apex here going through the lower bracket or whatever, and there seemed to be a big sort of murmur and big talking point about these European players who everyone sort of usually thinks, oh, they can't touch the top 16 or the top 8, which, we haven't touched the top 8 yet, but it's only a matter of time, especially with a makeshift team like Apex going over and placing 13th, which is actually a really good thing. I mean, both teams did really well to place 17th and 13th. I was very happy for him, especially because LLL, having placed third at EGL, it just shows that the third place team can place top, 17th, then what if everyone was just as practiced, and if Infused went over, or if the new Apex went over? It's very encouraging for Europe, and hopefully we can get more teams over there.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard, obviously we know that Reaction was kind of a last-minute pickup for Apex or Link, so you kind of have to make the argument of what happens if they went with the full team, what happens if they took Trojan and actually went with the full they practiced with. I've not really spoken to anyone at LLL. I mean, from what I've heard, I think from talking to the Bucks, they just said, oh, we just choked. We did have Farrell in the chat, so if he's there, it'd be nice to kind of hear.
That happens a lot, though. The Bucks, they're shit in tournaments, to be honest. No offense. Apart from they did beat my team, so they're not that shit.
You're shitter.
I'm just playing awful.
But what about Phil? What do you think that the impact of these teams beginning to do quite, significantly well in America is going to have on kind of Europe to start with?
Europe players or Europe as a general?
Like Europe and the community. I mean, what in terms of community cohesion and what you think it's going to have on players in other teams now. What do you think the effect's going to be?
Well, it's good for the lower amateur players, because I mean, that's saying that we barely have any, to be honest, in Reach. But for people that would like to attend MLG or would like to compete in our tournaments over here, it gives them a bit of hope, because there's never really been that much of a European presence in MLG when it comes to Halo. It's always been the odd one random team or two random teams going over. For Halo 2, Halo 3, we never really broke through into top 8. Never made that much of an impact. Apart from, I think, was it Power that got everything moving in Halo 3?
Yeah, we went to Raleigh, we got 10th, but then that was a different format because obviously there wasn't pool play. We started off in the pro bracket and we did beat Straight Ripping twice to get top 12, sorry, and they were shit that event. They were. I mean, I talked to Coach Tom, who was their coach at the time, and I remember I was in the lift, and as I came down, he got in, and I was like, "How's your tournament going?" He was like, "We fucking suck dick." So it's obviously we the team did really well in Raleigh, but it didn't kind of feel like the massive win, the massive kind of tournament it could have been, because we did have quite a close series with Triggers down for top 10 or 8, but we just kind of ran out of steam. But so. I still didn't feel that even though we placed 10th in Raleigh, that we gave everything we could have had, which is kind of linked with Adam's point with what happened in Providence, particularly with Apex Link. How do we know what we're going to do in America now that our makeshift team, particularly with one guy who's not even in the same continent as us, gets 13th and loses 3-2 to the team that came second? That's pretty big. And, like you said, the impact that it has in Europe is really encouraging for players in the community in particular. But, Andy, what do you think kind of the impact, the long-term impact is going to be? Where do you think we're going to be next year? Do you think we're going to hit the top 8?
Next year, we're going to have a lot of teams from Europe going over. I know that Infuse plan to attend the opener. SK are saying they might send you MLG. Is that right, Adam? Yep. And
no. I'm
God, stop
gonna
looking at
say watch this space because I don't think either
Well,
party knows.
I think your console manager posted on our forum saying that's the plan. So
Yeah,
it could be in luck.
He said that's the aim. That's the aim.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Oh, hi,
Like,
but
so
MLG.
hopefully we'll
Okay.
see you over there next year. LL, I think we're going to see them again, and Apex, obviously, they're planning to go to most
Yeah.
of them.
So kind of
And
3 to 4 teams.
it's going to go. I'm hoping that it's going to go back to the point where we're going to have 3 or 4 European teams go into the powerhouse again, or somewhere similar, and knuckling down, playing each other, going through strats beforehand, playing maybe some American teams. I think we can definitely break the top 8 next season. At least one team will do it, and I'm going to call Apex to do it.
Interesting. Guide Adam.
I think more than one team can do it because it's slowly but surely everyone's getting to the same level. It's just all about keeping your nerve and executing. Basically, if you make a mistake, then you lose. If you don't make a mistake, you win. I mean, there's a very good chance that if Apex had beaten Clutch and his team, what were they called? I don't even know. They play second. Warriors. If they'd beaten them, there's no telling where they could have gone. They could have ended up in the final. You never know. It's just about keeping your nerve and not choking, really.
And having practice, don't forget, they only played like around 30 games as a team before they entered the tournament. Like, practice obviously makes a lot of difference.
Fusion, Riots, and Rami were pretty well practiced together, though. It's pretty easy to slip into a free like that, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
And Eddie's no stranger to tournament play either.
True. Yeah. I mean, because this, obviously, what we're saying is therefore. I mean, what's interesting is that there doesn't seem to be. If this is the case, where we are kind of very encouraged between what Europe can do in America, like, it doesn't seem that there's maybe so much of a gap between. There used to be this mythical EU versus US gap that, understandably, the idea would be that US players have so many more good teams that they therefore have so much more high quality practice as opposed to quantity. But if that gap's kind of gone, then I'm interested to kind of know what you guys think. Is this gap between European and American players still here, or is it slowly disappearing?
I think it's still there, mainly because I'll just say one quick thing. I think there's a huge amount of American players who don't have to work or do anything. They just play Halo, and that's all they do. There's a few in Europe, of course, but there's a lot.
Stefan.
Yeah.
MVP.
Hey, he still works a bit for his dad every now. When he runs low on a haggis and iron brew, he has to get a bit of money in. So, but there's a lot of players who don't have to actually work or anything, and they can just practice and do whatever they want. But go ahead. Sorry, I cut across you there.
I think there's 3 groups. There's Instinct in Americans, and then there's Americans and Europeans. I think the gap between Americans and Europeans is closing. Apex and LL certainly proved that. They got quite far into the bracket, further than I think any European team's done before.
I can't take these off.
I think we've lost Jules as well. But Apex and LL, they've shown that Europe can cope with the Americans. Apex nearly bested Warriors, and as you said, they finished second after an amazing run in the losers bracket. So it's definitely there. It's just down to the practice they put in beforehand and how well they can perform on the day.
I don't think you ever lost me. I think I'm still here.
Twiddling.
No, I'm still alive. I mean, do you think? I mean, one thing I've kind of been thinking about recently is there doesn't seem to be that kind of like godly skill gap anymore. I don't know if that's going back to the game itself, but there doesn't seem to be. I mean, in Halo 2, you kind of watch the Ogre Twins, you'd be like, there is no fucking way anyone in Europe will ever touch them. You can't imagine fucking Sacred going over to MLG and even looking at the ogres without exploding. Like that would have happened. But now you kind of see players in Reach, and a lot of the time I kind of, because I obviously commentated at EGO London and I've done it. I mean, watching every event in the dawn of time at Europe. There doesn't seem to be that massive skill gap anymore between like the individual plays between American and European players.
That's the thing, though. It's not. I don't think it's individual skill because there's lots of players to place in top 16 in Europe who are individually skilled. It's just they're not smart enough in fours to progress to a higher level because teamwork is, although it's not the greatest game, Halo Reach, you still have to play as a four and understand what the other team are trying to do and how you play around it. That I don't think we're quite. One thing was not as aggressive as the Americans and in on the same page. When we try and be aggressive as Europeans, it seems we get a bit sloppy and all over the place. Where the Americans seem to have some sort of extra telekinetic way of playing, maybe because they played more Halo together or they're just better players. I don't know.
Well, that's one thing that Buck20 was on a chat with Gandhi, I think 2 days ago. Was it Behind the Crosshairs or something? I mean, Gandhi's got
behind the nose hairs.
Yeah.
I mean, Gandhi's got about 12 different chats going on, so I can't keep up with which one it was. But he was on a chat with him, and in that interview, he said he found that American players just are more naturally aggressive than Europeans. So it kind of maybe does raise the point about, you know, maybe that skill gap isn't there anymore, but the quality of practice leads to teams being better. And that as you've got people like, you know, Ogre 2 has been around since 2003 playing competitive 4v4 Halo, that knowledge is there. Whereas now, say in Europe, we've got players who are, you know, we've got people who've been around for a long time, like Baxter, and I suppose technically people like the Bucks and Eddie and you know, you've been around, Ed's been around, a lot of people have been around, but not necessarily a top flight, if you know what I mean. I mean, for example, you've just picked up Chalky Jr., who's really only attended, what, 2 or 3 events?
I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
It's not a huge deal. It's not a huge like wad of experience that, for example, like a T2, a Wolfshire, and Ogre can just fall back on even if they don't get the game. Like a lot of players now in Europe are getting the game, then trying to get this Halo knowledge together.
I think it's a state of mind more than anything.
Go on.
You know, like, yeah, if you're a newcomer to the American scene, you know, you have to adapt to how they play. Otherwise, you're never going to get anywhere. And, you know, it's the same for Europe. But when you cross over, one style of play that you've grown up to adapt with is obviously going to be better than the other. And, you know, the Americans seem to have that edge at the minute with the way they play, because it seems to be like, get aggressive in the face, then get the setup, and make sure you keep the setup with, whether it's traditionally with Europe, we've been known for a bit more, you know, we're a bit more passive. We like to, you know, get the setup in place and then work around that rather than, you know, going all in balls to the wall and then setting it up.
I think that's changing over time now. I think we are getting more aggressive as players and teams, and we're not relying on setups. Certain players do. Certain players have that mentality, and it's how they play and it's how they win. But I think the skill gap, obviously nothing to do with nationality. It's not Americans are born better Halo players, whereas Swedish players are born better StarCraft players. It's not anything like that. It's just they practice more, they have more opportunity, the big events are in their home country, whereas, you know, it's just more difficult for us as Halo players from Europe. But there's no excuse to be worse. We can always practice, we can always watch VODs, and we can always set new barriers. But I think it's going to be a little bit of time of a lot of lands and a few more Reach events before we get into the top 8 and maybe push towards even an event win. I don't even know if that's possible, but you never know.
So, because this kind of brings us on that second topic that I did mention about the possibility of LG coming here, which might change everything. Because I think this stems from a tweet where Sundance says something. I haven't got it in front of me, so I'm just going to have to recall from memory. He said something about he'd been visiting Canada, Germany, France, Sweden, the UK, Brazil, and India. India's a little bit of a weird one because he did say he's not actually visited, he's just been in talks. But it does bring up the question of, you know, he's been talking about spreading internationally for a long time. If those are the places he's spreading into, one of them being the UK, do you think MLG coming here will have an impact? Because, I mean, from a personal standpoint, when Sundance talks about spreading internationally to MLG, I don't think he's talking about bringing Gandhi and Puckett and Xboxes and screens and chairs and teams here. I think he's talking about franchising it out to leagues like EGL. But Do you think that would change anything, even if that is if the franchising route is the way to go? Because obviously, if they do franchise, they would still send out some big names to draw in audiences. But do you think that will change anything?
A little
I
bit,
think if
yeah. Oh, go on.
you want to go on, no, you go on.
It definitely change it a little bit. I think it'll give it a boost, but it's not going to turn everything round and give us like 100 teams for Halo Reach or anything, or it will just give it a little boost. And I still think that if they did come over to Europe, they wouldn't come to England. They go straight to Germany. They'd definitely go straight to Germany or Sweden because StarCraft is their main great game. And why would they come to England? There's no reason to. All they've got here is a good amount of Call of Duty teams and a small amount of Halo teams. If they go to Germany, they've got a hell of a lot of StarCraft players, a lot of Call of Duty players, and even some Halo. So if they were looking at it from their point of view, then they'd go to a mainland sort of country, and we would see a bit of a boost. But I think it's more about what we do as people watching this or talking about it, or forum users getting behind Halo to boost it again.
Smithy, what were you going to say?
Well, I think bringing the MLG brand around at last, it's definitely going to help in terms of for MLG and the tournaments who they franchise out to in terms of viewership, because quite a lot of people might have heard of MLG and say, oh wow, they're coming to Europe, I'm going to start watching this now. And obviously I hope that a lot of people want to watch the Halo bit if they do choose to do it in Europe. But it's not going to have a massive effect on how the game is viewed, because Reach, at the end of the day, it's still Reach, and no matter who supports it, it's still the same game, and attitudes aren't going to change that much around it.
I'll disagree with that, because I think actually having a big brand like MLG behind competitive Reach now, because don't get me wrong, I love EGL and what they've done for competitive Halo. In terms of getting like names out there, we are seeing kind of a few more people turn up to the community just because they've heard of EGL. But imagine the impact that a name like MLG coming over here was. There are so many Europeans I see tweeting or tweet at me or follow me or who are on the MLG forums or other competitors or like Real Halo Nation. There are so many Europeans that aren't necessarily in our community. But that doesn't mean they don't follow competitive Halo. They follow MLG. They know about MLG Halo. There are so many people in the UK who watch MLG Halo who we don't know about. And to have them, say, franchising the MLG brand to EGL will bring so much more interest into our area. Like, there'll be people all around the UK who've never heard of EGL but will want to turn up because of the MLG brand. And that will make them kind of want to form teams, etc., etc., etc. And so I'm going to have to kind of disagree and say that actually I think the impact that MLG coming here will have on European competitive Reach will be huge.
You hope so.
It
I
depends.
hope so.
I hope you're right, but like at the minute with the other games, they seem to be more popular, and a lot of people who may be new into the scene, they're going to have their friends say, "Oh, come to this game, come to this game, come to StarCraft because it's awesome," and stuff like that. It's quite a good. It is a bandwagon element kind of thing. So I do hope that the Halo bandwagon does get started again.
I think it's kind of a shame that StarCraft is so good, because if it wasn't, I think Halo would be. There'd be a lot more people watching it and playing it, and because all four of us would admit that we probably enjoy watching StarCraft a lot more than we have done some Halo Reach games. So it's.
I have no idea what the majority of StarCraft matches that I've watched. Like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on, but it's more.
But you've watched them. Yeah, you've watched them.
It's more entertaining than Reach.
I think that's the main point.
Because there's that much stuff going on. But
Reach, no matter what you do with it, it's still going to be the same game. It's not going to all of a sudden appeal to people never watching it before. I think Gandhi went on about it loads if it came on TV. Was it? If it came on TV, Halo Reach, a lot of people just go, "What the fuck is this?" and just turn it off. Whereas StarCraft, you might think, "Oh, this is like Command and Conquer," or it's not. Halo Reach at 30 frames per second. I mean, what's the point?
well, it's actually averages at like between 30 and 50 or something shit. That's why
It's
that's another
bollocks.
thing. It's not consistent. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a broken down, like, there's aspects of Reach that
It's an
work
old mule, isn't
well.
it? It's an old mule that we're kicking
Yeah,
along.
it's a broken down piece of shit. But like mechanically, that game it is just fucking on its last legs. Like,
Yeah, but
it fucking
what I'm saying is
it
that
fucking
I don't
screen
think.
lags in the Forge world if you don't build in a certain area or use certain items. I mean, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, just give us
Don't get me
something
wrong.
fucking solid.
This is all speculation because we don't know if we don't know if anybody's coming over here because it could be. I know they mentioned before about regional qualifiers. So that could be what he's actually hinting at. But I don't know. But if they do come here, what I'm saying is that there are so many MLG Halo fanboys in the UK that actually, no matter who they pick, if they do, I mean, they could bring everything over here. They could pick iSeries, they could pick EGS, they could pick EGL. I don't know. Whoever they pick, no matter what, I think you're just going to find such a little core fanboy base of people that want to be at and would say they've been at an MLG event that they'll come to us. They'll come to the MLG brand. And it's from them we'll see the competitive European community grow. Just from that, I think. I'm not saying that all of a sudden every casual gamer is going to go like, oh, MLG, oh, Reach, what's this? And next thing you know, you're going to have Danny Boy 24447 being like the next bullshit. But at least there are a lot of hidden EU Halo gamers that follow MLG but don't have any clue about or maybe not even the incentive to attend smaller European events. But if you see these big names, I mean, there's such an obsession with MLG that's been going on for years, and if that obsession actually manifests into a European tournament, I think it could be huge.
I think it's going to help as well with some of the European users of MLG. They'll finally be able to, I know that some people from HRF have gone over there and said, hello, we exist, come join us, and discuss with people more locally here, but that some of them haven't been too keen to get away. So it'll definitely help those users integrate better if MLG, does come to Europe.
Yeah.
So you heard it first. MLG is coming to Europe.
I don't know.
Say it's true. Just say it is true. It's fine.
Yeah, it'll work. Trust me.
Look at me, no.
But
Halo,
I think
anyway.
we've been talking for like an hour, quarter now, so it's kind of time to wrap this up, really. Don't know what that was. Probably
What was the gong? What was that, man?
Adam's trolling the.
Adam symbol. But yeah, I think really the whole point of this talk, the whole point of TO4 today was that we really kind of get our heads around what the problem with Reach is, and we've kind of just come to consensus that there is more of a grassroots problem with the game itself than there is kind of I need neighbour to earn more money. That makes me want to play again. That makes me want to be interested. But I still think there is a lot for us as a community to do. I still think there is community to be produced, which is why I called for doing this. And I still think there is just kind of there is stuff that communities can do to integrate other players more. That's what we need to do. But I don't know. I don't know if we're going to do that anytime soon. But are there any shout-outs anyone wants to give before we leave?
Shout out to the European community. Just players such as Blackjack, changing their attitude and starting to get more involved. More people who do that, the better. Yeah, that's it.
Any shout-outs from you?
You see me?
No? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it lagged, so I didn't hear whose name you said. Yeah, my cat. That'll do. She's watching.
No sponsor? Hint.
Yeah, cheers to Fragby's Jaw, who's paid for everything.
Excellent.
Cheers to my new Team SK and all the Toshiba and Steel Series and all that. It's pretty cool that a big organisation's getting behind Halo again, and pretty excited about it.
Excellent. And Phil, any shout-outs?
Well, I should be wearing these, shouldn't I?
Phil, any shout-outs you want to give?
Nah. Shout outs to Halo Reach dying and That's
you're
all.
so positive.
I know, but fuck it, man. It's seriously dead. But
It's
yeah, shout out
StarCraft.
to Halo 4 possibly bringing Halo back into the league.
Fuck Reach, acquire Halo 4. Alright, well I'm going to give a shout out to the whole of Haloreachforum Europe, because I do think we need to, even if it's a piece of shit, we still need to kind of get the community galvanized again. So if you know anyone who's contemplating tournaments, let them know. If you know anyone who wants to be part of a community, let them know. If you want anyone to produce content, let them know. So, we do need to do something. I hope that this chat's kind of been interesting to anyone on the chat. Shout out to all you guys who've been watching the whole time, or if you've just tuned in or tuned in earlier. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, like I said, we'll do this bi-weekly. Hopefully we'll do this bi-weekly, and we'll have, the reason we call it Team 04 is that you should have myself, Smithy, and Adamski as a regular, and we'll have hopefully an extra guest every time. And we'll always talk about everything Reach, to do with Halo, be it America, be it European. So we'll kind of strive to bring up anything. So I think what we should do is kind of make a thread on Haloreachforum Europe for anyone to kind of if they've got anything they want to be discussed in that. I know I'm now going to get a load of posts saying you need to discuss JC's cat, but if you guys can write anything you want to talk about in there, then that'd be great. So from me and everyone else, I'll have to say thank you and good night.
Goodbye.
Bye.